WNN. You can help. Contact their offices at 561-962-1702. And remember to listen to the Parkinson's Hour right here every Thursday at 6 p.m. The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Sometimes life needs adjustments to work out for us, and making these adjustments can be difficult to see. Welcome to Change for a Better Life, Love, and Health with Nadia, a weekly empowerment show hosted by world-traveled Nadia Rosh, as she brings needed information to help you select the right path in life's challenges, relationships, and just taking care of your body. Nadia welcomes all questions on the show by calling 888-565-1470 and asking anything that you're having a problem with. You can see Nadia on changeforthebetter.tv, as each week she will bring new solutions to your life. And to reach Nadia directly, call 954-907-5176. Now, let's get ready for change with Nadia Rosh.
Hello everybody, this is Nadia Rosh, and this is my weekly program about love, life, and health, how to make all these things happy. Today we are going to talk about how we can create health and well-being for ourselves. So we need to be conscious about our life and choose what life we actually really wanted. So our body not feel good and we are not happy. So now we're talking about how we can make it our life much better on these things. So today in the studio I have a Dr. Boyce who gonna talk to me about a health. Hello, doctor.
Hello, Nadia.
So, because you are first time in the studio, can you introduce yourself? We know about a little bit about you.
Well, I'm Dr. C.A. Boyce, senior. I've been in the field of health and wellness for, about 35 years.
Oh, that's good. Okay. You have a big experience on this. So you are actually is natural health practitioner.
Correct.
So can you talk about this more? And people know what is this exactly thing?
Well, basically, when someone has an issue, an ailment that is not remedied by the medical profession, and they're seeking an alternative method to deal with it, I'm usually the man that they would see, or somebody in my field that, they would come to see to help in that area. And basically, we work on illnesses that, some of them, people are even told that they just can't get rid of them. They just have to treat them. Mm-hmm. But most of them can be gotten rid of, like fibromyalgia, hypertension, diabetes 1 and 2, tumors, and a few other things as well.
So this can be treated without official medicine, right?
Yes, it can. And it can be not just treated, but gotten rid of.
Okay. So
completely.
Okay. That's very interesting. Let's talk about what source of earth we can use to help our body to not be sick. Like air, water, and earth, what she's producing, natural things.
Correct. Well, they're, being born from the earth, we are compatible with things from the earth. And, of course, water is a part of our makeup. We're about 75% water. Right. We can go without water for so many days, but we have to have water just like we have to have air. But if we it's just like the animals, they're created from dirt as well, but they're given certain things that they can eat. For example, you have an elephant that weighs 3-4 tons, and all he eats is herb. He eats grass, leaves, fruits, things like that. He never would consume any meat whatsoever. And on the other hand, you have the tiger and the lion, who's a herb, who eat meat only, and they can't survive on fruits and vegetables. But the human being
We have choice.
have the choice, and we're supposed to eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, things that are alive, because you can't consume dead food and get life from it.
That's true. Yeah. So, but many researchers they say, actually, our body can eat any kind of food. But what result we have to eating this kind of food?
Well, true. We can eat anything. It's true, but of course, if you, for example, if you fed an elephant meat, it can eat it, but it will get sick and die.
Right.
So the reason we are sick is because we are the only creatures that eat outside of our diet.
Yeah. So we would choose food, what to eat. These animals is actually they have no choice. They eat what they create to eat, right?
Yeah. They follow.
They follow the natural instinct. Yes, what to eat. And they actually, when they become sick, even tigers or some animals who eat meat, they looking for the herbs to heal themselves, right?
Yes.
So
as well as getting some rest.
How to choose properly what food to eat and what food to not to eat for us, for humans?
Well, it's not very difficult, because I often say that to gain weight you have to work at it. So to eat healthy, you have to work at it as well. It doesn't matter what you're doing. People will say, well, I don't have the time. Yes, we do have the time, because it takes time to drive up to McDonald's and buy a McMuffin. It takes time to drive to Wendy's to buy a Wendy's sandwich. It takes time. So when people say, I don't have the time to eat healthy, they're really just denying themselves the truth, because they do have the time.
They don't choose the right food.
They choose not to do. Because we are basically followers. I mean, the Bible says we're like sheep, and sheep only follow.
Yes.
So if somebody says...
And coming from hearing, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you hear...
You follow.
You follow, yes.
If, for example, if you work on a job or company and, somebody get up and said, I'm going to lunch. What do you want to get? And instinctively, that individual may not even want to have lunch, but because somebody said, I'm going to lunch,
yes,
they decide that they're going to have lunch. And they hadn't planned to have lunch, so they didn't plan what they were going to eat. So now whatever that individual is eating, that's pretty much what they're going to eat. And we do that often. We just follow other people in their eating habits, and we develop problems, because most of what we eat as convenient food, as they call it fast food, I call it convenient, it's very destructive. I try to tell people, McDonald's doesn't sell you a McMuffin because he likes you for 99 cents. But he sells it to you because he has a purpose in selling you that 99-cent McMuffin. Because it's going to create hunger. The bread that you're going to eat is going to cause hunger. And you're going to come back later on, 11 o'clock, for another sandwich. And
the bread creates you more hunger.
Yes, bread makes you...
That's so interesting. Could you talk about a little bit more about this?
Yes.
People not think about. They think is if I have a burger, I have 2 pieces of bread, I have vegetables between, and I have piece of meat. this combination is make me
A meal.
male. So, what the secret?
Well,
But it's a trick, actually. It's a secret trick.
The trick is the flour,
A flour.
the bread. People are not aware, but most people in the business, in any industry that utilizes bread, knows that bread creates hunger. For example, I looked into this based on what I saw, watching a movie and see that the man in solitary confinement was given bread and water. And I said, well, bread and water, how could that be a punishment,
Yeah, it's a torture. Bread and water torture.
It's just bread and water.
Oh.
But it so happens that he gets this big chunk of bread.
Daily, once a day.
Once a day.
Once a day.
A big chunk of bread and a container of water. Now he would eat the bread and enjoy the bread, but the bread creates thirst.
Yeah, because it's salt inside.
Right.
And,
Has sodium.
you
And
want to drink water.
he wants to quench the thirst. But because of drinking the water, it causes the bread to create hunger.
Wow, that's it. So they eat, but they create hunger. This is kind of torture because they not have any other food
For the whole 24
for
hours.
the whole 24 hours. So this is why they become crazy and starving. And okay.
And
Oh,
they
wow.
will eat any bugs that crawl into the prison because they're so hungry.
Wow.
But also, one of the things that we take for granted in our society is that whatever meal we're eating, we include bread.
Mostly, yeah.
Yes, because we when we eat at dinner, we want biscuits or slice of bread or whatever. But we fail to realize that the bread creates hunger.
But not right away. This is
No, it's slow. It's a
for
slow
the few,
process.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
and it for example, if somebody just take anybody can try this, but you get up in the morning and you eat some oatmeal or eat a medley of fruits in a bowl and just have that for breakfast,
Right.
and maybe a cup of hot tea, and you go off to work.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be fine. You won't feel as hungry as the individual who got up and made eggs and toast or eggs and muffin for
Okay.
breakfast.
For breakfast. Okay.
You see, the bread company is not in business for you not to buy their bread. So they advertise the bread so you can eat it. Because the more you eat, the more you buy.
Okay.
And we all have particularly in this southern hemisphere, we can't eat anything unless we have bread with it.
It's kind of habits here.
you
Yeah.
know. So,
Every table serving first with the bread. Even in a restaurant, you coming and before you order the meal, they bring to you complimentary bread and butter or bread and oil
yeah.
to eat this. And then
And
when you eat, you're actually not hungry anymore, right?
No, you're not. You will eat for the moment and feel okay, but as time goes on, within the next hour or so,
Yes.
your hunger will develop. So the idea is, for example, if you go to an a la carte restaurant, as you said, where they would bring you bread
Yeah.
and oil or bread and butter and water. Of course, you have to have water.
Not hot water, just the cold,
Just cold
icy,
water.
icy
Yeah.
water. Yes.
They will bring that bread and they'll take at least 45 minutes to bring you the food, which allows you to eat the bread and drink some of the water. And by the time you're through eating your meal, you want dessert because your hunger has begun to develop.
Okay.
So
After meal, you want to dessert.
You want dessert
Yes.
and whatnot. So it's important to include the bread. Now, the reason the bread works so effectively is because it has no nutritional value. It's white flour.
And white flour. But is a different kind of bread. Is if we eat some kind of good bread, for example. It is good bread existed?
There is good bread
Okay.
because if bread is made with the whole wheat.
Yes.
When they say the kernel, you take the kernel of the wheat and you crush it and make flour and make bread with it. That's bread
It's bread.
because it has wheat germ, wheat heart. It has all the nutrients,
Oh, the
the
crush
fiber,
it a whole thing.
the whole grain.
Okay.
That's why when people say they want whole grain bread, that's what they're talking
That's
about.
what it is.
But because whole grain bread, when you lift it, it has to have weight.
Okay.
But if it's not,
Can be heavy.
it has to be heavy.
Heavy.
Because
Okay.
it still has all the enzymes and so forth in it.
Yes, yes, yes.
And if you look a little closer, relating to what the Bible says. Bible says in the Word of God, it says, "Give us this day our daily bread." Okay, and the principle behind that is, if bread is made from whole grain, if it's not refrigerated, it can only last one day.
Yeah. Or it's
Because
going to be molded.
it'll start to spoil by
Spoil, yeah.
the next day. There'll be strings of web in it because that's the enzymes that's germinating and causing the buildup in the bread.
Okay.
So it's only good for one. That's why you
One
have
day.
to freeze it or
Yes.
refrigerate it so it can last more than one day. But white bread can last a year, 10 years without
Yeah,
any
it's
problem
kind of
because
no
there's nothing in
expiration. No expiration for this. But that's not good for human body.
No.
We can't processing this kind of food. This is why we have so much problem with the health because, and also combination of the foods, right?
Correct.
When you eat protein and carbohydrates together is not the same time to processing this. And this is make this
Particularly
also-
if it's artificial carbohydrate, because there's real carbohydrates and there's artificial carbohydrate.
Oh, okay. That's
See,
also,
white bread is artificial carbohydrate.
that's what we're not supposed to eat.
No.
Okay.
And it just turns to paste,
Okay.
and it lines your colon and block the digestive process and the enzymes that are in the colon to help to digest your meal. That's why so many people suffer from stomach issues.
Okay.
And they have gas and indigestion, and because their colon is lined with all this paste, so it can't process the food properly. So the food kind of sits there, and all the gas comes back
We're
up.
also mentioning about the water, what we have on the table. The first time, first what they bring on the table, this is bread, butter, and cold water with the ice.
Ice water.
And here, because I am from Europe, so we not drink cold water. We're drinking room temperature water.
Correct.
Mostly all countries in Europe. But here is traditionally people drinking. It doesn't matter. It's in New York or it's
The South.
Yeah, or South. They all drinking icy water. So that's also affect the food to not processing well. And what happened when we drink this icy water?
Well, our bodies, the digestive juices in our stomach has to be 98 degrees Fahrenheit to process the digestion, to process the food and have it properly digested and utilized. When we eat, and it's a vicious cycle actually, because when we consume foods with artificial salt, sodium, it causes us to be thirsty,
Yeah.
which causes us to drink that ice water, and the ice water causes the fat that we consume to solidify, and we develop.
Not melted at all.
No, it
Just
becomes
storage
solid.
it, a solid and
It
storage
becomes solid
in
because
the body.
when we drink that cold water, it causes the digestive juices temperature to lower.
And stop.
Well,
stop
in some
working
cases,
after
yes. In some cases, if we drink too much cold water, it will stop it completely. But if we just drink enough to lower the temperature, it will slow it down and cause the fat that let's say we ate chicken or some foods with meat with grease, that fat will become solid, become capillaries, flakes, and it will begin to. And
The storage is all around the body.
because the colon is like a conveyor belt. It's always moving. So even if the digestion stopped, the conveyor belt, the colon is still working, and that fat would just go into different areas and stick here and stick here.
Sit there. Yeah.
And sit in your system and develop. And there's right here on the stomach, there's a layer of fat that is supposed to be real thin, but the more you add to it, it starts to increase. Also in the colon, in the walls of the colon, in the arteries. That's why people, for example, you hear people say that sometimes someone say, well, he had a heart attack because he had a bad heart. But it's not necessarily the heart. It's the arteries are clogged up with plaque and fat, and it causes the heart to work extra hard.
To use more energy, extra energy.
To work, to function. So by using these false foods, and our bodies doesn't really recognize white flour and white sugar as food because it's not a whole food. See, sugar starts out as a liquid. Sugar cane, they squeeze the sugar cane, the juice is crystal clear like water. They process it by boiling it at 5,000 degrees in a vat, and when it's cooked, it's as black as this table. It's called blackstrap molasses.
Molasses, yeah.
So then they process it, and the more it's processed, the lighter it becomes. And when it's processed and chilled, the sugar in the bottom crystallizes, and you can get. That's how you get brown sugar, real brown sugar. You could pick a grain up with your two fingers.
Yeah, that's true.
Not the thing they sell at the stores that is so fine. That's not real. So they process that sugar and they process it to get lighter sugar and lighter sugar. But the end product is a powder, white powder.
Which is nothing.
Which is no nutritional value whatsoever. So they take that, they add an artificial sweetener, and they call it granulated sugar. So when you consume that, that's why people get diabetes from eating that stuff, because when you consume it, your body does not recognize it as a food, and it creates problems. It causes your insulin to be regular and so forth.
Yeah, because it's not processing.
Right, it's not processing.
Human body. So this is actually, you try to say, is if the pastry coming from white sugar, that's not good. If
white flour, white
flour, white sugar, that's what we're not supposed to eat. But when we bake something with a good ingredients, which is not gonna.
It's not going to have that kind of effect at all.
Okay, all
because if you bake your own bread, and you can, most people, we can buy unprocessed flour.
Yes.
Okay.
Unbleached,
unprocessed, real flour. Because just to let you know, before they used to have unprocessed flour, but they would develop weebles in the flour.
Yeah.
Because the enzymes that in the flour generate weebles. And
so this is why they bleach this.
So they process it even more to get that out. So it could have a shelf life.
Okay.
Like the Twinkie that's 25 years old, and it looked like it was baked yesterday.
Okay, yes. And the McDonald's product never expire. Yes. Let's talk about a little bit about water. We talk about not too good to drink icy water. So if we drink water, we have to drink water.
Yes.
I think it's very important what time you are drinking water and what quality water we're drinking. Because if you're drinking water during the eating or right away after you eating,
it's no good.
That's no good. Is all nutrition just flash out?
Well, it dilutes the digestive juices that the brain has sent to the stomach to process the food to get proper digestion. But when we drink cold water during
the meal.
the meal or right after the meal, we dilute that. And that again is another reason why people have so many stomach digestive issues.
Right.
Because if food is not properly digested and it sits in their stomach and causes problems. But drinking water should be done about an hour, half an hour to an hour after room temperature.
Room temperature.
Okay, or you can drink some before, not much, because you don't want to dilute the juices too
Yes.
much. Because as soon as you start chewing, the brain sends the juices down for digestive purposes. That's why I tell people don't chew gum, because when you chew gum, the brain thinks you're eating, and it produces juices. And these juices stay in the stomach and eat the lining of your stomach, and then you can become ulcerated.
Yes, yes.
So, but when people drink water, it's like people in Europe or the Asian people, they would have hot tea, and they would have a
traditionally,
little, a little bowl, which is not even a mouthful of water. It's not even a half a mouthful, but it's warm, and it's not enough to dilute the juices, so they would have one of those.
Sip. It's like
right,
a little
it's a little sip of liquid, hot liquid. So they have that during the meal.
Yes.
You know, they'll eat a bit and sip a bit, and that does not disrupt the digestive process because it's not enough. And they consume more fat and starches
when they eat it,
than we do here in the Western Hemisphere, and yet still they don't have the weight problem that we have, simply because when they consume fat and starch, carbohydrates, they drink that warm wine or tea, a small amount, and it keep the fat liquefied.
Melted, yeah.
Yeah, keep it liquefied, keep it liquid. It stays melted, and it just they go to the bathroom, it just comes out in the stool.
This is another problem what we have in this society is constipation. It's the same creating this bread and cold water create the constipation.
Well,
and the food what is we're not supposed to eat, not compare to our body, right?
Yes, because if we eat whole foods, fruits and grains, like beans is high in fiber and protein, and other vegetables have fiber. If we consume fruits, vegetables...
We have to take a break now, 15 minutes, and we're coming back soon. So, we have a minute? Okay, all right. So, it's actually our time going so fast. So, but we are actually pick some very important to how to start think and create your own healthy eating behavior. Yeah. So that's so good. So thank you to coming our studio. I think is very very good information we received today, and hopefully we see you soon again in our program because it's important. It's very important to stay healthy.
It is.
So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
You have been listening to Change for a Better Life with Nadia Rosh as she explores the mysteries of life, love, and health. Tune in next week for another chapter that will help you make the right choices in your everyday situation. If you wish to contact Nadia, please call her at 954-907-5176 directly or visit the website www.changeforthebetter.tv. And thank you for tuning in for Change. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.